Hi everyone, this is Kayla Parr with the Nebraska Department of Education, Office of Special Education, and we're here to welcome you all to the first Results Matter administrative series, and again the first one being setting up your fall classrooms within Teaching Strategies Gold. I have a couple others here in the room with me. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Anson, and I work here at NDE in the Office of Early Childhood. And I just want to first thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules, especially the start of the year, to join us here today. So our goal with this series is just to provide an additional layer of support as you work through really utilizing the system and ensuring that everything is set up and ready for use. So to start here, what I wanted to remind you of is that this webinar is going to be recorded. And so if you want to view it again in the future, or if you know somebody in your district who would benefit from the information, you can view this at a later date. What we intend to do is send the link out as to where you can view it in a separate email once we host it online. And then at the end of this session will be time for a question and answer period with both Kayla and I. So as we're going through the PowerPoint, if any questions arise or if you need further clarification, please type those questions in the chat box and we will address all the questions during the last half an hour of the webinar. So to get us started here, we have provided some websites or places to go to really have a place to go for help when you come into any questions. So if you're going through and needing to remember all the steps of really getting started, here we have checklists available online for a beginning admin and then if you're returning. We also have the user guide for administrators, which has a lot of details and descriptions on what our gold administrators need really to be able to navigate through that system. If you look at the very, very top web address, here at NDE we have created a Learning Pathways for Gold, and that is available online, which will allow you to then click on all these links so that you don't have to try and type them in later or copy and paste. So if you refer to that very top web address, that Learning Pathways for Gold, it will also online then include those as hyperlinks so you can go back to those checklists. So this is one reference of support online when navigating through Gold. Another really important resource to be aware of as you're working through all the components of My Teaching Strategies is they have developed a support portal. There's a picture of it there on the screen. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's yellow, but it always is the circle question mark at the bottom left of your screen. And the Gold support portal is often referred to as the Google for Gold. So it's like your own Google system within My Teaching Strategies. So when you click on that question mark and you select Gold Support Portal, you can then type in any question related to Gold. And the nice thing about that support portal is that it will actually give you screenshots of the system and step-by-step directions. So as you're navigating through and have any questions, this can be your first point of contact to kind of navigate through some of those questions. As well, within the support portal, there is a webinar tab, and it hosts all the previous webinars that My Teaching Strategies has developed through the year as additional levels of support. Within the support portal, the third piece there that is important to note is as you navigate through the support portal, if you're not receiving the information that's going to assist you, you can actually submit your case right there, and it will take you directly to My Teaching Strategies Gold Support to submit a case for further assistance. In thinking about that, as you submit a case, you can do that right there on the support portal online, or on this slide here, there is the technical support number. So you can submit online. You can also call and submit your case. So as you're going through My Teaching Strategies, if you have a technical assistance issue that you've now navigated through your online resources, including the support portal, and that issue is still an issue for you, you'll want to start by submitting that case directly to My Teaching Strategies. And the reason there is you will get a ticket number. That ticket number is very important to allow for efficient tracking on both My Teaching Strategies side, and allows us on NDE to continue to follow up to make sure all those technical assistance issues have been addressed. Once you have submitted a case, whether it be online or through calling, please allow that 72-hour time period to receive a response from Gold. If you have not received any response within 72 hours, or it's a possibility that the issue has still not been resolved, that's when you'll want to contact either Kayla Parr or I, Alyssa Anson, here at NDE, so we can continue that follow-up process. And as it states as well, if My Teaching Strategies has reached out to you and is unable to resolve that issue, they will send you a notice that your issue has been escalated to Tier 2. This workflow can be found in the latest Results Matter technical assistance document, as well as a reference for those steps to completing resolution to a technical assistance issue.
Okay, so from here, we're going to take a shift into the platform itself, where we're going to learn how to navigate some of the essential processes to setting up your Gold account for the beginning of the school year. So what you'll see first is cleaning up teachers and classrooms for this new school year. And what we're going to do is then walk through the steps that you would follow within the Teaching Strategies Gold system of how to complete these tasks. So first, cleanup process that you would need to take into account is creating new accounts for new teachers and administrators. And what you see here is a three-step process of how to get to those steps in accomplishing exactly what we just said, creating new accounts. So the first step that you'll see is step 1, which is going into your initials and selecting administration. Now, you'll only see this feature on under your initials if you have what's called administration access, and that's under your settings where you can find that information. So if you do have administrative access, you would go ahead under your initials and select administration. And then on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see step 2, which says click view users. And then step 3, you'll want to add a new user. Now from there, it'll go into the fields that you'll want to complete. And at the very top, it talks about your user type. In Teaching Strategies, they often use the word user, as in Nebraska, we have lots of different types of users who are using the Gold system. So that's teachers, paraprofessionals, building principals, superintendents, SPED directors, occupational therapists, other related service providers, and etc. So again, oftentimes you'll hear us use the word users, meaning a broad variety of those who use teaching strategies. So when again, you're creating an account for any of those individuals that I just listed, there is a tab where you select user type, and of those user types, you have the options of teacher, which could very well be the classroom teacher, or the person that sees that whole class list most frequently. Then you also have, so that also as well could be for a paraprofessional who again would need to see that whole class list in order to help support that documentation process. So teacher and paraprofessional would be under the label, the user type of teacher. There is also an administrator type of user, which again allows you to see and or edit at a program level. So again, if you're giving someone administrative access, you are able to then select which classrooms or which sites under your program that you would want them to be able to see. And then you also have the option if you want to give them the ability to edit, or make changes. So there's an option for administrators to just be able to see program level data, but also be able to provide assistance in regards to, just as we're saying, setting up new teacher accounts, making transfers of children within your district, and so forth. The last user type that I wanted to talk about is called team member access. And again, it's under that same three-step process where you're adding the user, but under user type, you would select teacher, but when you scroll to about the middle of the profile, you're going to see a visual just like this. And this is for those individuals who are working with individual children. So they still need access to a child's profile so they're able to enter documentation and monitor that progress that they're making. But you don't want them to have access to the whole class list. So that's what this feature truly does. Most frequently, you'll see speech language pathologists using this. So again, they're working in a preschool setting, but they're only working with individual children. So once you enter in the program site, teacher, and then the class, it'll give you in that last box a list of all the children within that classroom, and you can select which ones you want them to have access to. So again, you're really encompassing that team member approach when you are collecting documentation and again, providing ongoing assessment opportunities for kids. Again, this is another feature that is utilized for district and Head Start partnerships or district and childcare partnerships. So if you as a district have a speech pathologist providing special education services to a childcare setting, to a child in a childcare setting or in a Head Start, this would be another way to, again, share data, share the responsibility of collecting documentation. So once you have all of your teachers entered into your program for the school year, then your next step would be to assign those teachers to the correct class. And the steps in doing so is, again, same format. Step one is you go under your initials. You're going to hear me say that a lot. And again, these are all administrator functions. So you would go under your initials, select administration, view classes, and then there will be a section to edit a class. And that's what you're going to see in step number 3 at the bottom of the screen. Within there is where that teacher, there's a red arrow pointing to teacher. that's where you can select what teacher you want associated with that class you're trying to edit. So again, making sure that the correct teacher and as well assistant teacher as labeled in the platform are associated with those classrooms. And then a third step in again, cleaning up your teacher or user information is to ensure that you're disabling any users, again, teachers, paras, administration, and related service providers, making sure that if they're no longer within your system or your district, that you are disabling their account. Again, steps for doing that is to, again, go under your initials, you would view users, and then you would identify which user you're trying to disable. And at the bottom of this screen, you'll see where the red arrow is pointing, where you would just select that checkbox. And then you would go ahead and then scroll down to the bottom of the screen where you would need to enter your administrative password for your own account. You're giving permission to then save and submit that you want to disable that user. The difference between disabling and deleting is if you disable a user's account, maybe they've left the district for a while, but then did end up returning. If you disable a user's profile, then you're much more likely easier to reactivate their profile and use it again in the future as a potential. Also, a reason to disable rather than delete a teacher is that within the platform, children are associated with their teacher that they were originally created with. So in essence, if you delete a teacher, there is a possibility that you could lose the children that were associated with that teacher. So again, I'm just highly recommending that you disable the user rather than deleting the user.
All right, so the next part of the process is in relation to the children's profiles and making sure that you're cleaning up any past child profiles. So what you'll want to do as either the administrator creates those children's profiles or possibly the teacher enters each child's profile separately. There are 3 very important pieces when creating each child's profile to making sure that all the data gets reported appropriately. So one of the very, very vital pieces is each child having an NSSRS number. So as we know, NSSRS is switching to advisor. So it's the same thing. So whether you refer to it as NSSRS or advisor, that number, that student number, has to be in every single child's profile. And that includes Head Start, 0 to 3, populations, sixpence, all of those. Any child in gold needs to have that number. Also in the child's profile, make sure that the correct school district is listed so that that child's data gets associated with your school district. And also taking a next step to look through all the children enrolled in all the programs birth through 5 and making sure that they are entered into my Teaching Strategies Gold. So when making sure all of this information is in a child's profile, you'll want to take that same first step as going to your initials and selecting administration. What you'll do next is you can view the children. And what we're showing you here is we're showing you a way of being able to add additional demographic information. So that way, when you're viewing your children, you're able to look at a quick glance whether they have certain things checked to make sure their profile is correct. So once you've selected administration and you view children, what step 3 shows you is you can click select columns to display next to that gear or wheel. So when you click that, there'll be a huge number of demographic pieces that you can select. And why this is important is it, like I said, allows you to view at a quick glance some of those demographic pieces related to your children. So this is a personal preference, what you want displayed. But what's really helpful here is at least selecting some of these that we have chosen so that you can quickly monitor your children on the IFSP and IEP, making sure that that is selected within their profile. You can see birth dates, which is important for exiting children, and you can quickly see their NSSRS ID to ensure that all children's profiles include that NSSRS/advisor ID. As I said before, the NSSRS or advisor ID is extremely important to be added into every child's profile. So if you select that as a column to display, you'll be able to now view every child within your program or district, and that column NSSRS ID number, if it's blank, then you'll know that either you as the administrator or the teacher, whoever's responsible for managing those profiles, that they go into that student profile and add in that NSSRS or advisor number. And so once you have gotten to the process of adding children, so once you are in the child's profile, you see that there's all that demographic information, and then at the very bottom, in my teaching strategies, it is still listed as NSSRS ID, but that is the same as the advisor ID. So you want to make sure you then add that and click save so it is tied to their profile.
All right, moving forward, another component that is essential in cleaning up your profile and ensuring that all information being collected is assigned to the appropriate school district. The next thing that we're going to look at is how to ensure each child has a school district assigned to their name. And the reason why the reason why we're addressing that, making sure the school district is assigned to the specific child, is especially in the world of special education, a child might be receiving services outside of that typical preschool classroom. They might be receiving those services at their home or wherever their least restrictive environment is. And so it's not always listed as again, that school district that's providing those services to them. So again, we want, for reporting purposes, for OSEP reporting purposes, we want to ensure that for those individual children that their school district is accurately assigned with that child. So here's how to do that. Again, you, as an administrator, go to your initials, select administration, and then you're going to want to select view children, which is step 2, and then edit children. And from there, it's going to take you to a slide or to a filter that looks just like this. You'll want to go ahead and enter your program, your site information, and then right in the middle, it talks about select the actions you wish to take for these children. And you're going to want to select manage funding sources / custom questions. And then on the very right-hand side, go ahead and click submit. And this is what will come up. This is an active system. This is an active slide. So once you walk through those steps just shown, it'll list all of the kids within your district, and it will list the school district on the left-hand column. You'll be able to edit that school district list within this platform. So you won't have to go to each individual child's profile to update it. You can do it right here in there as you're walking through each child. Just be sure as you go through those drop-down menus that you then click submit at the very bottom. Okay, the next up is updating children's color bands, and this is done within a child's profile. It is a request that color bands are updated at the beginning of the school year, and for those kids who are receiving or in those birth to 3 settings, just know that their color bands are automatically updated, so you don't have to go in at the beginning of the year and update color band settings for, again, the birth through 3 years old for those kiddos. Now, when they do turn 3, that's where it does turn over into your responsibility to ensure that the color bands are updated. And the language in behind how to select which color band for which individual is provided below. So again, you're going to want to update the color bands for returning children ages 3 to 5 at the beginning of the program. You would select the green color band for a child who will be in preschool for 2 years, and the blue color band for a child who will be in preschool for 1 year, and then they transition into kindergarten. If you need further guidance, you can refer to page 16 in the Results Matter Technical Assistance document. These are steps in which how to locate that child's color band to update. Again, you would go to your program, you would view children, and then you would select, this is a feature that would need to be done within the child's individual profile. So you would select the child's profile, and just as you see below, there's a drop-down menu for age or class/grade. That's what those color bands are referring to. So again, the blue referring to the 4-year-old setting, or the pre-K 4 class/grade, and then the green, which is the 3 and 4-year-olds who have been in a preschool setting for 2 years.
Also, when going through children's profiles, you'll want to make sure that the children who have already transitioned into kindergarten or who are no longer in your district or your program, make sure that those children are archived. So with the guidance that if a child has left your district or transitions out of your program, at the beginning of the year, you want to make sure those children have been archived. Also, if they are now in kindergarten, those profiles will want to be archived instead of keeping them sitting in your system. Making sure that, again, you are selecting archive, because these children's profiles could eventually need to possibly be reactivated. The only time you will delete any children's profiles is if they have been out of your program or into kindergarten for over a year. So just making sure when you're looking at to archive or delete, deleting is always a last option, and only if they have been gone for longer than a year. So when you're wanting to archive that child's profile, you are in the View Children portion of your profile. And once you've selected Edit Children, you'll follow that arrow down where it says Transfer, Reactivate, Archive, Delete. That's what you will be able to select there, and then submit that. So once you have submitted that action, now it gives you all 4 options. And again, you'll most likely only be archiving the children from the previous school year. So once you select archive, there's a box next to each child. You then can select which children need to be archived out of your program for this year. All right, so good timing, right about on the dot. We have gone through all the steps of getting ready for your fall classroom. I want to make note that we will host our next webinar on September 12th, and that as well is at 11 o'clock. And that will be into the next steps of roles and responsibilities as an administrator. So we can turn it over to the chat and see if we have any questions that we need to address.
Okay, we have one. Okay. If I have a student who lives in a different district but is in my classroom, do I still list this child in O'Neill or from the district they live in?
All right, so the question is, if I have a child within my classroom, but their district is another district outside of the classroom the child is actually attending. This is a unique scenario, and we can talk further. I would need a little more information to give you a proper response, but essentially, I'm assuming there has been an agreement in your situation where that child, there's an agreement for that child to be within a different district so that your district would then be the reporting district.
So I would recommend emailing or.
Yes, you, in your specific scenario, please do email me, being Kayla Parr at nebraska.gov, and we can talk further on individual scenarios like that.
Is there an easy way to see when a student has been archived so we know when to delete?
Yes. So when you, again, go to View Children, at the very top, it will give you some selections where you can type in the child's first name, last name, and then child ID. Right next to that child ID, there's a little checkbox that says Include Archived. If you click that checkbox and click Submit, you will get all of your current children as well as the children that have been archived in this long list. You'll know that the ones that are the children that are archived by, they're all in italics in a grayed out viewpoint.
And will it then tell them when that child was archived?
Yeah, I believe it will tell you when that child was archived. If it doesn't, because I am not 100% sure on that, you'll want to, again, look at birthdays. And if based on their birthday you see that they're in 3rd grade, go ahead and delete that profile. And then, again, if they are still within your building and you know that they're just finishing kindergarten, then you would kind of have to make some of those judgments based on the information that you have. But it may list within that included archived when that profile was archived. I can't provide that information for you.
I have a new PT who is already working in other districts. Is there a way to just add my school to her account, or will we need to create another account for her so she would end up having multiple accounts?
So in your scenario, it's not necessarily a unique one. When you have staff or personnel who are working in multiple districts, there isn't a way to share that information within one profile. So that individual would need an account for each district that they're working with. Now, if they are working within a district, but multiple buildings in that district, then they would be able to use the same account. You would just need to, again, under that user settings of who you want, which programs you want them to view, you would need to click those boxes there. So if it's, again, an individual within multiple districts, they would need their own account for each district. And if it's an individual who's providing services within the same district but multiple buildings, you would just want to make sure that in their account you select those individual buildings.
Is there a way to combine two children into one record if there have been two student records created?
So the question being, if there is a child that has two accounts, what do you do? This is an unfortunate circumstance, but it does occur. So when it does occur, or if you're in that scenario, the advice that I can give you is that you want to go with the profile that has the most historic data in it. So if you see the child has two accounts, and let's say they were in a 0 to 3 program and you have them now in your preschool setting, and a new account was created while they were in preschool, you're going to want to take the data that's within the most recently created profile and just go ahead and print out the documentation and finalize checkpoints where they were rated, and then you'll want to go ahead and enter it into the most historic profile that was created. So that would be the 0 to 3 profile. So again, the goal here is to show the child's progress from upon when they entered into Teaching Strategies Gold and when they're leaving. And the only way to do that is to go with the account that has the most historic data.
So another way to do that, as Kayla's explaining, so you always, like she said, keep the one with the most history. So when you look at the newer or most recent created profile, you'll want to finalize checkpoints based off of whatever information you have. You can just print off the individual child report and then scan that into the profile that you're going to keep, because then at least you have reference to what occurred before the two accounts were combined. So that individual child report will be kind of the quickest way to including the most recent data into that old profile as you merge them.
Okay. So then once that process is completed, then you can go ahead and delete. That's pretty much the only time we'll say delete. You can go ahead and delete the profile that you just emptied out.
Okay. How do we add a new teacher who already has a profile from another center at her previous job?
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm understanding that question correctly. So this teacher has a profile within Gold under another
center school.
Another school. If that teacher is now with a different school, she would then need a new account. If this teacher is within the same school, but the account was disabled, or if it was disabled, you would just reactivate it. And if it was deleted, then she'll just need a new account to start over with. And if that doesn't answer your question, you can either email us or send another response into the chat, and I'll try to better answer your question.
Okay. Where can I find NSSRS numbers for all children we service?
Okay, so I'm going to take us back to the slide. Let's see. Okay, so a couple steps to help you in this process. Again, you would want to go under your initials, whether you're an administrator or a teacher. So if you're, again, depending on what viewpoint you want to look at. If you want to look at a whole district setting, I would go under administration, view children, and the only way for it to show in this text is if you select columns to display, that little asterisk wheel. And within this checkbox area on the very right-hand column, at the bottom, make sure that the NSSRS ID box is checked and click Save. Once that's done, it's going to take you to this snapshot of all the children that's within your ability to view. And again, it's going to show the columns that you selected within that last slide in this box. You'll see there's really interesting scroll bars here. So there's a scroll bar for the whole screen, and then there's scroll bars for this individual chart. At the bottom, you can kind of see in this visual we have here, the scroll bar to just the chart. You'll want to slide to the very right, and that's where you'll see all NSSRS IDs, whether they have them or don't, for each individual child.
So can you explain then where they get the NSSRS number for the child?
Okay, I'm Tammy Hicken. I've joined this meeting. I'm the Early Childhood Data Manager, so I can help with the advisor numbers. I would, if that's what you're looking for, is the whole list of advisors numbers so that when you go to enter your students into Gold, you have that number. I would suggest contacting whoever is responsible for handling your advisor data or your district SIS, and they should be able to give you a list of those unique ID numbers. Would be available through advisor or your district's student information system. So hopefully that would be able to answer your question. So when you are inputting the children into Gold, you would have those numbers.
And again, once you have the number, this slide shows you, again, within a child's profile where that would be entered into.
Okay. Do we have to delete out of the system for more than a year, or can we keep them to save historical data?
You can save. So the question is regarding those archived children, and you can save the archived children. It really comes down to how clean you want your data system to look. So when you're running reports or again, having the essential information for, let's say, a 3-year span, something like that, you absolutely can save those archived profiles with that data. The question that I would have is with teaching strategies, I know you have to pay, within your license, you request how many profiles you would want or would need for your district. I don't believe there's a limit to the archived accounts, but that might be something you would want to check into, is to see if there's a limit on archive profiles, but I don't believe there is. So in that essence, you would be fine to keep the archived children longer than a year if that was a district choice.
Okay. We had a comment about a previous question that was asked about archiving, and so they're just sharing that you can add date archive to your admin managed children display. Unfortunately, you cannot see the archive date on the edit children tab.
Oh, okay.
So that
Thank you.
was kind of information shared there. In the old system, it would tell us if Gold account already existed for children. Will that feature be available in the future, or will there ever be a way to search for Gold accounts beyond our own district to cut down the duplicating of accounts?
Yes, that was a feature of the previous platform, and I think it was a feature that definitely supported our state in the use of the system. With the platform changes, there is no longer a feature for you to notify you if an account has already been made. So if you are in question, please reach out to myself or Alyssa Anson, and our information will get to that slide, to where we'll be able to ensure whether that child does or doesn't have an account already created. I know that's an extra step, but it will save you in the long run, in the chance that there is a duplication of accounts. So again, in terms of the platform build moving forward, it's something that NDE has requested from Teaching Strategies, is that it's built back in, but we don't have further information on when or if that would occur. So in the meantime, if you're unsure, it would be appropriate for you to contact either Alyssa or myself, Kayla, at the Department of Education, and we can look up that information for you.
Okay. Will you share the PowerPoint with us?
Yes. So at the end of the slide here, it just says, if you're interested in a copy of this PowerPoint, to contact both or either Alyssa or I, and we would be happy to share it with you. We're also going to have the recorded webinar listed within a private YouTube account. And so again, for those individuals who are unable to attend or wanted to come back to it, they would have the option to do so. When we do send you this PowerPoint, it'll be in a PDF format. So then again, you should be able to you'll be able to click on several of the links listed throughout the PowerPoint.
Great. Any other questions?
Any other questions before we close out? This is the first of the series, and so any input that you have, whether this was helpful or further information is needed, please do email us and let us know. And again, any feedback is helpful as we continue down this road of providing technical assistance. Again, we're here to support you as users, as we know that the tool can be very extensive and there's lots of steps in completing processes. So again, your input is valid, and we will take it in as we develop the September 12th webinar. And beyond that, we thank you for your participants, and I'm going to go ahead and leave our contact information up here at the end, but that would conclude today's webinar. Hope you have a great rest of your day.